Once again, it's very early in the morning. It's like 3:30 a.m. for me right now. Kind of like last week. Listen, I know if I go to sleep right now that the next day, or actually it's going to be the same day, but I'm going to wake up at like 2 p.m. I'm going to miss the picks. I'm not going to be able to put any in. So I got to just get it done right now as soon as I can. So uh, Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman, UFC 286. Second pay-per-view of the month. It's exciting, and it's a trilogy as well, so you already know it's going to be good. Going to go from the first fight all the way to the main event. We're going to start with Juliana Miller versus Veronica Hardy. With this fight, Juliana Miller is coming off of a win against Brogan Walker, where she won the Ultimate Fighter Season 30 for women's flyweight. She has very good ground game, and I think she is better everywhere. Veronica Hardy, she is 1-4 in the UFC, and she's also coming off of a 3-year layoff, which is just everything is stacked against her in this fight, even the odds, bro. Juliana Miller is a very sizable favorite at minus 435. Miller's the pick, man. I think. Do I got the picks? Where are they? Yeah, I got them here. I did not come prepared at all. But yeah, this is Juliana Miller. I think round one will be a bit of adjusting for both fighters. I think maybe Miller could get it done in that round. That's possible too. You know, it is the first fight of the night, so I think round one submission is likely. But you know what? I'm going to go with Miller submission in the second. That's just an early pick for right now. I'm going to stick with that for right now, but we'll see if later on I decide to change it. In fact, let me just go over her Tapology right now. See if I change anything. I think I might look at it later. Alright. So that's that. We're going to move on to the next fight, which is Jai Herbert versus Ludovic Klein. Jai Herbert coming off of a bad knockout loss to Ilia Topuria last year. And this fight, I do think Ludovic Klein has slightly better striking. I think he has better defense and clearly has a way better chin. I think all around he is just the slightly better fighter. And Jai Herbert, you all know this, he's got kind of a questionable chin, and he could get finished by Ludovic Klein, who is a very nice striker. He's good on the feet, and he's got decent pop. So, you know, the odds here, you know, a slight minus 195 favorite here, it does make sense. And whereas where I think this fight's going to go, I don't think Jai Herbert will get knocked out. I think it's possible, obviously. Everything's possible here in this game, but I think Ludovic Klein will take it. But I'm going to play it safe with this fight. I'll say he takes it by decision. Unanimous decision there. Jai Herbert could also take this fight too, but, you know, it's one of the closer fights on this card, so we'll just see how it plays out on the night. Joanne Wood versus Luana Carolina. This fight was meant to be on the main card at one point, and now it's in the early prelims, so that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I think every stat between these two is just pretty even. The fight's not going to go to the ground, I know that, but Joanne Wood just has much more experience in the UFC. She's fought much better opponents. I mean, way better opponents, win or lose. She does have that experience fighting against the best in the world. So I think she's going to slightly edge out somewhat lackluster UD, maybe even a split decision. I'll take Joanne Wood, and I'll take her by unanimous decision. That's my pick. Jake Hadley versus Malcolm X Gordon. Jake Hadley is a very big favorite here at, you know, minus 410. That's pretty sizable. I think Hadley's better on the feet and on the ground, and I do think he has better cardio as well. Malcolm Gordon, he's got a bit of a weird chin. He's a bit chinny, you know. He's gotten finished in all of his losses. He's got 6 losses in his career. He's gotten finished in all of them. Hadley, I think he's going to get the better of the striking exchanges. I think the first round is going to be close, and I think in the second round, they're going to find their way to the ground somehow. You know, they both do that a bit, and Hadley will find himself a submission on the ground. And my pick, Hadley by submission in the second. Going to move on to Christian Leroy Duncan versus Dushko Todorovic. This fight, Christian Leroy Duncan, I'm pretty sure he was the Cage Warriors champion. I think he did fight in Cage Warriors. I forgot if he was. I'm pretty sure he was a champion, yeah. Now coming in, he's undefeated, coming in to fight Dushko Todorovic. I think that was a good opponent for him. That's a good fight for, you know, his first fight. Leroy Duncan, has a lot more experience in cage fighting. I mean, by their professional records, you wouldn't tell. But if you look at their amateur records, Christian Leroy Duncan has an extensive amateur record. He's got around 22 amateur fights. He's got a lot of experience in cage fighting. I think he's better everywhere as well. He's better in the striking, grappling. He's got a better chin. He's got more power. Todorovic also does have a questionable chin. He does get knocked out, in most of his losses. I think Leroy Duncan needs a big showing for his debut. And, the fight, I think it'll be somewhat even in the first round until Leroy Duncan puts just a bit more pressure. And right near the end of the round, he's going to wobble Todorovic, set him down, maybe more than once. The referee will have to step in if, Dushko doesn't just go out cold. I think it'll have to be just 1 or 2 knockdowns, maybe a follow-up, and then I think the referee will step in. If not in the first round, then it's definitely going to be in the second round, but I don't expect anything different. Maybe a decision. Maybe Todorovic somehow pulls out a win. I don't not see that happening, but I will say Christian Leroy Duncan. I'll give him first round knockout. That is my pick. Lerone Murphy versus Gabriel Santos. This fight, the odds aren't on here, but it's the featured early prelim. With this fight, Murphy is very powerful. He's better everywhere. Santos is stepping in on very short notice as well. Santos ends up in a lot of sticky situations. A lot on the feet and on the ground. So Santos has heart, and he has been much more active. But I think Lerone Murphy in the first round, Santos will make a mistake on the feet. Murphy will hit him with something big, and then it'll just be ground and pound from there. He's from the UK. He's got to have a big showing. It's the featured early prelim. I think he'll get it done in the first round. He is coming off of kind of a long layoff, though. That is the thing. But obviously, Gabriel Santos being the less experienced fighter and also stepping in on around a week's notice, I think that's going to play into the favor of Lerone Murphy in the end. I'll take Murphy by first round knockout. If not that, decision win for Murphy if that doesn't happen. Muhammad Makayev versus Jafel Filio. This fight, Muhammad Makayev. Hold up. Let me go down to what I said. Yeah. Makayev's better everywhere. I mean, we all know this. Filo, he's making his debut against a very, very high-level fighter. It's such a big step up in competition compared to what he's used to. He does have more fights and more wins than Makayev, though, so that's definitely something. Thing is, Makayev is in his hometown. What was that? Thing is, Makayev is in his hometown, and I think he will have to get a quick finish, kind of like the others. Makayev will immediately rush in. He'll get a takedown within a few minutes. He will push that pace. He will get that takedown. The entire fight will be on the ground until Makayev finds a submission near the end of the first round. Filo will have to tap out. I think Muhammad Makayev takes this fight first round submission. I see a lot of people saying unanimous decision as well. That's entirely possible. I was going to say that originally, but just playing it a bit more risky this time around. I've been being too safe in my picks. I'm gonna test the waters with some of these picks to see where I go. But Sam Patterson versus Yanal Ashmos, and what I got down here for this fight. Listen, Sam Patterson is the much bigger guy. If you watch the weigh-ins, you would have seen this. I mean, this guy's an entire head taller than Yanal Ashmos, who is undefeated, by the way. Sam Patterson, he is much taller. He does have a 10-inch reach advantage as well. Patterson is also the better striker and grappler of the two. He has more octagon experience than Ashmos. Patterson, I think he's going to be able to avoid shots better. I think he's going to be able to counter really nicely. We've seen that in some of his previous fights. When he counters hard. He's got big power in his counter shots, bro. I'm telling you, he does. I think he's going to land a hard counter in the second-ish, maybe. He'll find a finish. He'll finish Ashmos off and with the ground and pound, or maybe even a submission. I think Sam Patterson is very good on the ground as well. Submission is very possible. I just don't really see him going for a takedown, and if he does go for it, I don't really see him landing it. I think Ashmos has nice takedown defense as well, so I think on the feet is where most of the fight's going to be, and I see Sam Patterson taking this fight by knockout in the second round, or TKO, obviously. Chris Duncan versus Omar Morales. This is where I start getting into a bit more risky territory. Chris Duncan, Omar Morales. Duncan is the guy in a lot of people's picks, man. A lot of people got money on this guy. A lot of people think this guy's going to win easily. I think it is because Omar Morales is stepping in on short notice, which might play into that fact. Chris Duncan definitely has the advantage there, because Omar Morales is stepping in on short notice. But I think Morales has just much more experience in the UFC. He's fought the much better opponents in his career. Duncan doesn't have the best chin. He does not have a very good chin. He gets wobbled in most of his fights. Morales has only been knocked out once in his career, and he wasn't even out in that fight. I mean, it was like kind of the referee had to step in, but Omar Morales was good. He could have kept going. Regardless, Morales has much better head movement as well, and even if he does get hit, he has much better recovery than Chris Duncan has. Both are very powerful strikers. That's facts. But Morales, I think he'll be able to recover from shots better. It'll be a wild first round, but I think Morales will drop Duncan. He'll follow up with some ground and pound maybe, because Chris Duncan, he does have the ability to get back up. He just gets set down a lot. So I think it'll have to be some ground and pound. I don't think Chris Duncan will be out necessarily. If the fight doesn't get finished in the first round, then it might become a fight of the night contender. Obviously, Gaethje versus Fiziev is likely going to be fight of the night, but I think this one just might be second place. I think this was going to be fireworks for sure. A lot of people sleeping on this fight. This is going to be an exciting fight for sure. If you just look at these guys' last few fights, they're crazy, man. I don't expect this fight to be any different. Listen, I already talked about the strengths of Omar Morales. I think this is the hot take. I'll say he takes it by first round knockout. Even if he's stepping in on short notice, I'll say first round knockout. If I'm wrong, then I was hella wrong, because Chris Duncan is a sizable favorite. I'm pretty sure there's no odds here. Yeah. But if you just look online, you'll see it. But this is kind of like my underdog hot take pick, Omar Morales. I truly believe he has a good chance to win this fight, and I'm more comfortable picking him. So I'm going to go with Omar Morales to win this fight. Featured prelim, Jack Shore versus Makwan Amirkhani. With this fight, Jack Shore is moving up in weight. He is ranked number 15, but that is at bantamweight. That's not featherweight. He's ranked 15 at bantamweight. Moving up in weight 10 pounds. He said he was, kind of destroying himself in those weight cuts to 135. At 145, he's going to feel much better without that heavy weight cut. He's going to be better on the feet and the ground. Amirkhani is on the verge of getting cut and isn't very good in his last few fights. I'm pretty sure he's won in like 5. He's 1-5 in like his last 6. It's something like that, man. It's not good. Amirkhani's only good strength is on the ground, so it will be a bit more difficult to submit him than it would be to just strike with him on the feet. I think Jack Shore will take note of that. I think he'll still be able to control Amirkhani if it gets to the ground, and I think Shore will just beat him anywhere it is, on the feet, on the ground, anywhere. I don't really see him getting a finish. I think it's still possible, obviously, but the way I see it going, I think Jack Shore, he'll take it by a comfortable UD, and Amirkhani might just get cut from the promotion. So we'll see how that goes. But we're going to move into the main card here. Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolidze. This is a super fun fight. Marvin Vettori, a sizable favorite at -275 against the number 9 contender Roman Dolidze, who entered the rankings after a short notice win over Jack Hermanson, who was ranked number 8 at the time, I'm pretty sure. Where do I have my... Yeah, right here. Thing with Dolidze, right? Dolidze is a killer. A lot of people are sleeping on Dolidze. You should not. This guy has absolutely dismantled his last 3 opponents badly. He badly damaged Kyle Dawkins' orbital bone. He absolutely brutalized Phil Haas, kind of tore his knee. He did something bad to his knee and then knocked him out cold right afterwards. He got Jack Hermanson into such a tricky position, and it was so bad. It was so tricky that Jack Hermanson could do absolutely nothing but just block his head. That was it, man. Roman Dolidze, he's so creative on the ground. He's super powerful and very creative with his grappling, his sweeps, and the moves he does, the different positions he finds. If he misses a submission, he's getting another one right away. He's already thinking he's one step ahead every time. I don't think, in this fight, I talk about submissions, but I don't think either fighter is going to get knocked out or submitted. I don't think there's going to be a finish in this fight. They're both just very hard to finish. They've both never been finished, I'm pretty sure. I think it's just going to come down to striking, on the feet, the amount of strikes they land, whoever looks more dominant, and also control time. I think there's going to be some control time. We're going to see this fight go to the ground quite a bit. I think Roman is just slightly quicker than Vettori. Vettori's not the quickest guy. He has been working on his striking, though, so I know that's improving. But I still think Roman's going to be able to clip him just a bit more, just enough to win some of the rounds. I think a lot of people are, not that I think, a lot of people are favoring Vettori. And I've already made picks on too many favorites, I think I might have to go with another underdog pick here. I bet against Dolidze in his last fight, with Jack Hermanson. I bet against him. I don't know why. I knew he was a killer, and I still bet against him. And he showed up. What can I say, man? This is gonna be like a pick that not a lot of people are going for, but it's definitely possible that this does end up happening. I'll say Roman Dolidze. I'll take him by unanimous decision, maybe split decision. I think it'll definitely be close. It's not going to be one-sided. If it is going to be one-sided, then it would be on the Vettori side. I think Dolidze is going to have to edge out a close decision if he does want to win. I'm picking Dolidze. I'm comfortable with that pick. If he loses, I wouldn't be super surprised. And if he wins, I wouldn't be that surprised either. We're going to move on to Jennifer Maia versus Casey O'Neill. Listen, I made this pick. It was like 2 in the morning. Everybody's picking Casey O'Neill. Casey O'Neill looked much better in her last fight than Jennifer Maia looked in her last fight. Casey O'Neill's the prospect. She's undefeated. She's coming off of a knee surgery, but that mindset is definitely there. I mean, it has to be there for sure. Jennifer Maia, she has fought the much better people. She is much more experienced. But I think it's just going to come down to who wants it more and the skill set. I think Casey O'Neill is just a bit better on the feet. Don't know too much about the ground. Then again, I didn't look a lot into this fight. I'm going to just be straight up. I'm going to take Casey O'Neill by decision because apparently that's the pick. I didn't really look into this fight that much. I do apologize, but we're going to move on to Gunnar Nelson versus Bryan Barberena. Hell yeah. This fight, man, I think it is better than the Daniel Rodriguez fight. I do truly believe that. I was pretty excited for that fight as well, but Gunnar Nelson and Bryan Barberena, I think Bryan Barberena is just a bit more exciting. Not a bit. I think he's a lot more exciting. Bryan Barberena, I love this guy, man. He's repping Colombia. He's doing all that. What happened? Where did it go? I don't know why I clicked this. But yeah. It's a featured bout, so I might as well. Gunnar Nelson, he is 18-5 with 1 draw. Bryan Barberena is 18-9, no draws. Last fight, Gunnar Nelson fought last year, back in March of last year, so he has kind of had like a year-long layoff. He fights once a year. He's one of those guys who only fights once a year. That is a bit concerning, if the whole drive is really still there. But he is coming off of a win, so that's that. Bryan Barberena is coming off of a loss to RDA, who is ranked top 10 at lightweight. He's a former champion, and that fight did happen at welterweight, where before that he was on a 3-fight losing streak. And here's the thing, I can't root against Colombia. If it's a Colombian, I'm putting the bet on them. I do not care. It don't matter. And here's the thing, people underestimate Barberena's ability to survive submissions. Everybody's pick is Gunnar Nelson by round 2 submission. Here's the thing, a lot of people get that from the RDA fight, but a lot of you forget that in that RDA fight, it took multiple fight-ending submissions from RDA before Barberena would finally tap. It was like 3 or 4. I mean, it was neck cranks, and it was deep, and it was in there for long, long periods of time. Barberena would not tap. Barberena is a tough guy. He's hard to submit. He's stubborn. He will not tap, unless you're RDA, who's just an absolute whiz on the ground. Man, that guy's crazy. And also, Barberena is exciting on the feet. He's much more active than Nelson as well. Not only in just career fighting, but also just in fights. I think he's much more exciting. He's going to put on a bigger pace, I feel like, in this fight. I think if he does win this fight, it has to be a standing TKO in the second. I think in the first round, It'll have to be a lot of, in the first half, it'll be striking. Brian Barberena will look slightly better. But then it'll go to the ground. It'll maybe be on the cage as well, where it'll just be all Gunnar Nelson. I don't think Gunnar Nelson's just going to be able to tap Brian Barberena out like that. It's going to be much more difficult to do that, in my opinion. And I think Brian Barberena, listen, I can't bet against him. I'm not allowed to. He's Colombia. I'm not allowed to do that. You know this. And if he's going to win in any way, it's going to be by round 2 knockout, or maybe even first round knockout. But you know what? I take Brian Barberena, taking my knockout in the second round. Staying loyal to the Colombianos, always, man. But we're going to move on to the co-main event. This is fireworks. This fight is so good. This fight, man. This fight. I think about this fight from time to time, and I think about just how good it is. How we've been blessed with this fight. Listen, Justin Gaethje gained my respect for this fight. I thought he was ducking Fiziev. I truly believed he wasn't going to take this fight no matter what. And he took it. And all I can do is respect him for that, honestly, because he's now giving us this entertaining, very fun matchup between the number 3 lightweight and the number 6 lightweight, Rafael Fiziev. 24-4 versus 12-1. Justin Gaethje's last fight was a title fight. It was, however, a loss by first round submission to Charles Oliveira, who is very good. Rafael Fiziev's coming off a win against RDA in his last fight. And this fight, man, everybody knows this is going to be fight of the night. There's no way it's not going to be fight of the night. So we just have to think about how it's going to end and realistically how Rafael Fiziev wins. Here's the thing. It's going to be a lot of back and forth exchanges. Everybody knows this is going to be a lot of back and forth. It's going to be very bloody. There's not going to be a lot of groundwork, even though there is a possibility where I see one fighter gets hurt and shoots. Maybe he gets the takedown, but the fights, there's not going to be a lot of time on the ground. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a lot of striking, not pure striking. I think 95% striking minimum, in my opinion. Minimum or maximum? I honestly don't know the difference between the two sometimes. I think Gaethje's going to tough it out through a lot of Fiziev strikes, even though he may get dropped once or twice. I believe Gaethje will have his moments too. And I think it's mainly going to happen first, second, third round. I think it can happen anywhere. I think he's going to have more of his moments in the second or third round. It's going to be the bigger moments for Gaethje, whereas in the first round, it's going to be, I think that one's going to be the round with the least action, in my opinion. I think a lot of people are slightly underestimating Gaethje in this fight as well. Fiziev, he might get the finish. He truly might. But we've also seen him get into somewhat close fights with guys like RDA, which was his most recent fight. You know, you can talk about the 5th round knockout, but then again, that's a 5-rounder. If you just look at purely the first 3 rounds, which is what this fight's going to be, is a 3-round fight, then it would have been a 29-28 for Fiziev. If I remember that correctly. I kind of forgot how the rounds went or who won which round. But I know RDA won one of those rounds. With this fight, I still think Fiziev is going to be able to avoid a lot of the wild Gaethje shots, and he won't tire himself out too badly too early on. In round 1, I think is going to be the least action. Both fighters will be somewhat hesitant at the start until I think one of them, likely Fiziev, I think it will be Fiziev, he's going to land a big shot on the other, who's likely going to be Gaethje, and it's going to wake him up, or maybe the other way around too, who knows. 2 will start to become more active and trade more. After that, it'll become fun but somewhat close first round. I think I'd still give it to Fiziev, though. Most people online, I think, will still give it to Fiziev. In the second round, it's going to be the bloody round. This is the bloody round. Both fighters are going to trade their biggest shots in this round. Both fighters are going to bleed much more. And I think Gaethje will get dropped twice, like I mentioned before. Fiziev might get slightly dropped or wobbled once as well. It's going to be a wild one. It's going to be one of the bigger rounds of 2023 so far. And I think Fiziev is going to be the slicker striker. He's going to be able to avoid a lot of those Gaethje shots. He's going to be able to avoid more than Gaethje can avoid the Fiziev shots. And I think it's going to edge him out round 2 on a lot of people's scorecards. And I think round 2 will definitely be the most exciting round as well. Round 3 is going to be the slugfest round. Both fighters are going to be slugging it out. They're going to be tired by the later half of the round, and they're going to be slower. It's going to be less action in that round. I think it'll still be exciting, though, because there's going to be that tension, and it's going to seem like the fight could end at any moment. This round's going to be closer to the second, and I think Gaethje might even take it on one of the judges' scorecards, maybe both of them, and a lot of people might even say he wins that round. This is the way I see it going in the judges' decision. I expect a 29-28 for Rafael Fiziev on all three judges' scorecards, but a split decision for Fiziev is possible too, or maybe even a win for Justin Gaethje could also happen. It's possible. Maybe one of them gets robbed. That's possible too. I do see that happening. Maybe. Who knows? I still got Fiziev winning. I don't think he'll finish Justin Gaethje. I think it's possible, but I don't think it's going to happen. Fiziev, by unanimous decision, is my pick. 29-28. The main event. Leon Edwards versus Kamaru Usman 3. The trilogy. When was the last time you got a trilogy, man? Feels like it's been a long time. I don't know why. But this is a fun one. This is a fun fight. A lot of people I've been seeing a lot of people say like that this fight isn't being as hyped up as it should be, that a lot of people aren't as excited for this fight as they should be. And that's exactly it. They're not as hyped as they should be. This fight is huge. This is a big fight between the two best welterweights on planet Earth right now. No doubt about it. This is 2 pound-for-pound greats battling it out for a third time now. Leon Edwards, the hometown hero, versus Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian nightmare, formerly number 1 pound-for-pound in the world before Leon Edwards had kicked him into the shadow realm. Now meeting up again for the third time to see who is the true welterweight king in front of Edwards' hometown. And that's not it, bro. Everything else, the build-up, the long 4 years, the headshot dead, the post-fight, Usman now coming back to get his back. 1-1 with this last fight being the one to determine everything. It's really a huge fight. It is a huge, huge, huge fight, and I'm super excited. With this fight, I think a lot of people are forgetting really what Usman did in the first fight. Or in the second fight. Yeah, second. I forget that they fought their time. 3 times now. But Usman, he dominated every round. After the first, at least. After the first round, he dominated every round. Both fighters know this. The fans know this. Everybody knows this. Yeah, a lot of people are not talking about it as much as I think they should be. A lot of people talking about less elevation, right? How it's going to be much better for Leon. It's going to be better for Usman too. Don't forget that elevation applies to both fighters. Usman is known as a crazy cardio guy. It's only going to be better in this fight. It's going to allow him to push a bigger pace if he is confident with his striking on the feet, his ability not to get knocked out. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. Both fighters will have better cardio, so it's going to be a better fight. Everybody's talking about how Edwards will have much better cardio. Usman will as well. They'll both have good cardio. Regardless, I expect this fight to be closer than the first or the second. I do expect that. I think both fighters are going to have their moments, and the rounds will be somewhat close, leading into the 5th round. In the 5th round, I think it's going to dictate where some of the judges are going to sway, and it might even determine who wins the whole fight, because I think this fight will go to a decision. I do truly think that. I am picking Usman, though. I think Usman, he is pound for pound one of the best. Leon is too now, but it was only when he landed that head kick. If Leon Edwards never landed that head kick, he's nowhere near the pound for pound top 15. Now he's number 3 because of one kick, but if he doesn't land that kick, what happens then? You have to think about that as well. Usman is pound for pound one of the best fighters on the planet for a reason. He's beaten some of the best welterweights alive right now. He showed up time and time again, managed to show more skill in every fight. Even in the Leon fight, he dominated 2nd, 3rd, and 4th round. He showed more skill in that fight. He did cheat a lot, though. He did do a lot of weird things. I will say that. It's kind of questionable, a lot of the things Usman did in that fight. Still, though, I think the only issue now is Usman has to respect the power of Leon Edwards. He has to respect the striking of Leon Edwards. Obviously, he respects the ground game of Edwards as well after that first round. Usman just respects Edwards more as a fighter now, and he's going to have to come into this fight much more dedicated, much more focused than any of the previous fights now. I think another one is Usman will be a lot more on edge since he does have to respect that head kick. He's gonna keep his hands up much more. He's gonna be a bit more on edge about that kick in general. I think so. I think he has to be regardless. Whereas in the second fight, he just saw absolutely no danger. In that last minute, he thought he could just toy around and show how good he was, and he got head kicked. In this fight, it's going to be a whole different approach. From the start to the finish, it's just going to be a whole mental game. I think a lot of it's going to be mental. This entire fight's going to depend on who has more confidence. It's going to be all in their heads. Not all in their heads, but they do say that the fighting game is 90% mental. A lot of it is going to be in their heads, especially in this fight. And that confidence is also going to change as that fight progresses, as it goes on. We're going to see who's leading and by how much as the fight goes on. Leon knows if he never landed that head kick, he would have lost a comfortable unanimous decision. If Leon starts losing the first 2 or 3 rounds, that thought might get into his head, and he might have to try to seek another crazy finish, which he may or may not get. I think he could still come back. We've seen that Leon Edwards can come back. We've seen that, he's from the trenches, headshot dead. We've seen that he can come back, and he can come back in style. Leon Edwards is not one to give up on himself, especially not with those coaches, man. Those coaches, very inspirational. I do got to say they're very inspirational coaches. And I think he could, even if he's losing the fight, he may or may not just get another crazy finish. It's possible. However, if Leon does win the first 2 or 3 rounds, his confidence is just going to be on an all-time high. And I think he'll probably cruise through the rest of the fight and win a unanimous decision. With Usman, he has to respect the ability of Leon. I said this. His confidence is going to be dejected in this fight, and he's going to be a little bit more on edge. However, if he starts to win the first 2 or 3 rounds, he'll start to realize now he's won the majority of all 3 fights with Leon. The confidence will be back. He'll trust his ability more, and he might even cruise his way to a decision, unless Leon lands another head kick, of course. However, if Usman starts losing the first couple of rounds, his confidence might just fade completely. People forget. Usman could probably land his own Hail Mary KO as well. That's possible too. Maybe it happens, but who knows? But if he starts losing the first couple of rounds, I think his confidence might just fade completely. It might not. He does have to have that championship mindset, but a lot of people think he's also on the verge of retirement. So there's that as well. It really just depends on how he approaches this fight, what he thinks about in the future as well, what his plans are for that. There's also the fact that Usman's hand is still compromised. I wanted to make a video about this a while back, but I guess I'll just talk about it now. He injured his hand in the second Colby fight. He had to get a hand surgery. He took a long break from fighting. Came back to fight Leon, and then after the Leon fight, we saw him training with tape around his hand, and we even saw him in public. If you saw that whole cage interview, I forgot what the promotion was. You saw that cage interview. He's been out in public with a cast over that hand after the surgery, after a fight after the surgery. So we've seen that the hand is now compromised, and it was a big enough problem to the point where people were talking about the trilogy not happening, and Jorge Masvidal having to fight Leon Edwards instead. That's how bad the hand injury was, or seemed to be, at least. Usman's hand is going to be an issue in this fight, and I think it could get hurt as soon as the second round. I think that's possible as well. In this fight, that's going to be much more competitive. Hand's going to get hurt much earlier. All I know is that could change the whole course of the fight. I don't see a scenario where Usman's hand does not get injured in this fight with Leon Edwards. The hand will be compromised. It's going to be compromised somewhat in the second or third round of this fight. It's going to start getting compromised. But Usman, he's got that dog in him that allows him to keep fighting. That's that dog you have to have in you in order to be one of the best fighters in the world. But he's also dealt with horrible knee pain throughout his UFC career. but he's also still managed to look dominant. He's just passed through it in his training and everything. Usman's got no excuses whatsoever in his training, man. I don't get it. He's really got that dog in him. It's just weird, man. I mean, he is also. I do think he's juicing. There's also that. I do think Usman is juicing. Then again, who doesn't? But yeah, I think Usman, he might just power through this fight and win a UD. He's powered through knee pains, through hand surgeries, through knockouts, through humiliation, through whatever. I think all he has to do now is just power through this fight with a guy that he's beaten before, that he's broken before. That's all that's left is just this one fight. 25 minutes with Leon Edwards. Just put on the best performance, man. Show up like you showed up with Gilbert Burns, with Jorge Masvidal, with Colby Covington, man. And that's what he needs to win. Leon Edwards, he needs to show up as well. These guys both need to show up if they want this win. They have to put everything into these camps if they want this win. This is just one of those fights where it's really hard to tell who's gonna win, but I don't even know, man. It's just crazy to think about. I think ultimately it'll come down to the confidence and the will to fight and keep going, and to fight smart, especially because if one of these fighters gets too cocky again, let's say Usman, if he decides, okay, I'm gonna just play around, he could get head kicked again, like in the second fight. Both these fighters, they have to fight smart in this fight. There's no playing around. There's no easy title defense in this one for either fighter. This is the fight of their lives right now. This is the biggest fight of both of their lives. So I think the fight will have to come down to a close decision, 48-47. I'll say Usman takes it. Maybe even a split decision, like with the Fiziev-Gaethje fight, like how I predicted for that fight. But I also see a possibility where Leon wins a decision. I think that's possible too. I do see that happening. Or maybe even a late finish in the 4th or 5th round, knockout or submission. I've seen that a bit too, and I do see it maybe happening. But I do believe in Usman's ability to get it done. I don't think Usman will finish Edwards for whatever reason. I just don't think he'll finish Leon Edwards. I really don't see that happening. But also, if Usman loses, he'll retire for sure. I think if Usman loses, he'll have to retire. Not that he'll have to. I think it's his choice in the end. He doesn't have to. He could just beat the rest of the welterweights, But I think he will retire if he loses this fight. For sure, man. Mixed martial arts has proven to be taxing on the body of Kamaru Usman, and especially his knees and even his hand now too, man. He might just retire to focus on being a dad, and if he does retire, he'll retire a UFC legend, man. And who knows? I don't know, man. My prediction for this fight: Usman by a unanimous decision, 48-47. We look at the odds, right? Hold on. I just want to look at the odds, Like, if we look at these odds, Usman is the sizable favorite at slightly sizable favorite at the -240, right? But if we look online, everybody's saying Leon Edwards. But when people actually want to bet money, they're betting on Kamaru Usman. But if we look online, everybody's saying Leon Edwards, and I don't know. I think it's very possible he wins the fight. I wouldn't be surprised if Leon Edwards wins the fight. I also wouldn't be surprised if Usman wins the fight. It's one of those fights, man. I don't know. It's such an interesting one. We don't see a lot of fights like this, and that's what makes the UFC so exciting. It's 4 a.m. I don't know a lot about what I'm talking about. I think I'm just saying things. I think I'm just going on about how I'm just excited about this fight. Going through all these different scenarios that could happen, man. Who knows? This fight's happening in like 13 hours? No, because then there's also that like 2 or 3 hours. It's happening in like 15, 16 hours. Man, it's just one sleep away. That's what they say. That's what John Anik says. We're just one sleep away. A lot of people already slept though. I'm still awake. Yeah, man. These are my picks for UFC 286, Edwards versus Usman. It's going to be a fun card. And let's hope that my risky picks actually land this time. Let's hope so.